So, how much do we make of claims like these? And how serious are they? Well, some would say it doesn't matter who wrote the New Testament, and for them that may be all right. But these criticisms show that for some people, authorship is also a matter of authority. "27 books. That's what makes up the New Testament. Although, we'll delete Hebrews from the list because it doesn't have an author listed. Of the 26 books left, well, how many do you think get regularly questioned in terms of who wrote them?"
I hate Smurfs. Ow, ow, ow.
If you count those up, you'll find that's 14 out of 26, over half of the New Testament. And some of the others are questioned too, less frequently. A problem? That it is. So let's start finding an answer. One of the things I've noticed about critics who say that this or that book of the New Testament is bogus is that they seldom seem to explain in any detail how we decide who wrote a document. There are ways to decide that. Evidence that is considered when deciding who the author of a document is. Let's have a look at how that evidence works. And as a sort of control, we're going to use two other documents from outside the New Testament. One an ancient document, one a modern one. For our ancient document, we're going to select one by a fellow who is regarded as the greatest historian ancient Rome ever produced. No. Ah, there he is. This is Tacitus. Here are some vital statistics about him. What we're going to do is look at the evidence that he wrote his book called the Annals, a history of Rome that covers from about the 30s to the 60s in the 1st century. All modern historians agree that Tacitus wrote the Annals, and if the evidence for the Annals is good enough to say Tacitus wrote it, then a document with better evidence should have no questions about its authorship. Now the modern book, and I'm going to pick on a friend of mine here, Christian apologist Lee Strobel. He's written a number of books, but we'll be looking at the evidence that he wrote his book called The Case for Christ. These two guys are separated in history by a good amount, and they wrote about way different topics. But we'll see that the tests for deciding who wrote their books are essentially the same. Okay, so, here's the book, The Case for Christ. What's our first clue that it was written by Lee Strobel? That's right, his name is on it. This is what we would call internal evidence of attribution. What does the work say itself in terms of who wrote it? Now what might cause us to doubt this information? Well, let's say that we discovered a secret warehouse at Zondervan Books, and we found a bunch of copies of The Case for Christ that looked like this. If these copies of Case for Christ are old enough, they might be good evidence to raise doubts that Lee Strobel was the author. But, of course, there are no copies of Case for Christ by Elmo Thudbucker. All of them say Lee Strobel. What about Tacitus and his Annals? Well, yes, here again the answer is the same. All copies of the Annals say that Tacitus is the author. But there's an important extra point we want to add when it comes to this book. You see, there's only one place in the Annals where it says that Tacitus is the author, and that's at the very beginning of the book where it says, The Annals of Tacitus in the title. Be sure and keep that in mind for later when we look at the evidence for the New Testament books.